So here we are. Um, One thing we talked about not too long ago was what happened in the Australian general election. Not that too long ago. We even went over one of the Conservative members of Parliament in Australia who said directly, the reason that we lost the election was because we were not paying any attention to climate change, the problems that it causes, and the fact that climate change is now an issue that even Conservative voters now generally care about. And what's happened? This warning, this siren clarion call that went out, very much so, if you may remember, during the initial sort of Tory leadership contest, where it was going to be between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. And you may remember, both of these candidates at the time were abandoning their pledges to defend net zero, to which caused a big shock from what we have dubbed green Tories, because there are some green Tories out there who generally understand that, yes, actually the environment is playing a pretty big part in more and more of our electoral politics, and we ignore that electoral desire and will of the people who are voting for us at our own risk, knowing full well that Boris Johnson made a massive spectacle of the last big COP 26, was it COP 25? I think it was, and how important he considered this to be part of Britain playing its global role. And of course, why has this happened? Why all of a sudden, after all this stuff, after warnings from Australian Conservatives to the two leadership candidates, do not ignore the environment at your own risk, at your own peril, with green Tories saying, if you ignore this, we will lose electorally in many seats. What happened? Well, as I've been telling you for the past couple of weeks now, quite significantly, since Rishi Sunak took office, there have been big, significant rebellions in his party. And as I've continuously said, Rishi Sunak's government is a house of cards built on quicksand on an earthquake fault line. It could all come crumbling down very quickly. And you do not know, to be honest, what could set it off. There's a couple of big things that could potentially set it off. As we've talked about before, there's this whole PPE scandal that is exploding, getting some very senior Tories into the mix, potentially maybe even pulling in Rishi Sunak, although currently it hasn't yet, but it potentially has the possibility to. You've got the big Tory rebellions over the whole NIMBYism and YIMBYism of the shortening of not in my backyard to yes in my backyard, of housing targets when we are in a housing crisis, knowing that we need to build houses, and yet the Tories won't build houses. This is what I've said before. These types of arguments do not look good, especially to the general public, where you know you have a crisis ongoing, and yet you are doing nothing to solve it. And we always said that these Tory rebellions would have an impact. In fact, I said very clearly, this is going to be probably what brings down Sunak and his government. There will just be one rebellion too many, or there will be such a rebellion where it's not just one rebellion, it's like multiple rebellions at once, it could just bring down his whole government. And we've just had a very significant rebellion over Tories, even backed by Liz Truss and Boris Johnson, might I add, that they wanted to undo the ban on onshore wind farms, thus trying to fulfill the promise of net zero to the UK to provide greener, cheaper energy. And they succeeded. But what else was I saying as well? That, there would be other groups, and we know there are other groups, and one group in particular, the NetZero Scrutiny Group, has been watching this rebellion with interest. Because, as I said, if one rebellion succeeds and gets what they want, get what they desire, then up crops another group, because this is how many groups there are in the Conservative Party that could demand, well, they got their way, so now we want ours, or else we're going to rebel as well. And this is what I suspect has happened. That the Net Zero Scrutiny Group saw this push to undo the ban on onshore wind farms. It was announced, and almost immediately, within 24 hours, so you know full well there has probably been discussions going on in the background, probably with Steve Baker, because he's the leader of the Net Zero Scrutiny Group, saying, if you allow that, Sunak, if you allow onshore wind farms, we are going to rebel unless you give us our coal mine. And of course, here's the thing, this whole new coal mine, this is meant to be for, coking coal used for steel. Well, the steel industry has said it very clearly. Look, this coal, this coking coal, we can't use it. It's not suitable for our industrial needs. So even though the government is trying to say, no, this coal won't be used for power, very quickly, I suspect this will eventually be used for power. And surprise, surprise, there are already pieces in Conservative Home saying how much of a victory this is for levelling up for these areas. Well, yes, this is an ex-coal mining area that this is being built in, but the thing is, there's no coal miners left in the UK. I think there are 3 coal mines left. And I've got a stepdad who was an ex-coal miner. He retired, getting on 10 years ago since he retired. He said it very plainly himself. Look, most of the coal miners that are now left in the UK, they're going to retire. And he was saying that 10 years ago. So there's very little coal miners left now, probably in the UK, meaning you're going to have to bring in immigrants with those skills to occupy these jobs, which is not going to make these sort of areas who want these sort of to bring back these coal mining jobs for the local community. It's not going to make them very happy. But this is all the result of the very deep divisions that have happened in the Tory party. And I said there would be repercussions because of these rebellions. And this new coal mine is certainly one of them. And this is an exact reaction to what we have seen of them pushing to get rid of offshore wind farms. They said, to unlift the ban on onshore wind farms. Basically go, well, if you get that, we want a coal mine. How on earth do you even govern this Tory party? The simple answer is you cannot at all. But as always, guys, like I say, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. Like I say, down below, there are links to my Patreon page. There's the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well that you can join, which also helps support the channel as well. So as always, guys, like I say, please remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. Like I say, it does help out the channel. And of course, we'll see you all next time.